Welcome once again to Hunky Study. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about these diagrams for change of bases. They can be very helpful and help you keep track of what's going on. So let's begin with our space, which will be R2, and we'll take one basis, B1, and I have a couple of these written down here. So let's make this 3, 4, and 2, 3. So this is our first blob. And our second blob, which I'll put over here, will again be R2, but this time the basis for R2 will be different. We'll blob out the blob a little bit. So we'll have two vectors this time, 8, 3 and 5, 2. Eight, 3 and 5, 2. And what I'm interested in is change of basis matrices between these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a third blob that is not part of the problem, but is a helpful intermediary. This will be R2, and we're going to use the standard basis here. And the reason is that these two are, in general, those two are always going to be piece of cake. These two are easy. Once you get these two, it will be pretty easy to get these as well. So we're going to find these changes. And I need names for them here. So I'll call this one change a basis C and change a basis H. And those matrices are easy. C, for example, how do you do it? Since you are changing to the standard, the change of basis matrix takes each one of these vectors, writes them in standard notation. Hey, they are in standard notation. Because in B1 notation, this would be the vector 1, 0. 1, 0 means, or maybe B1, 1, 0 in the basis B1 means the first 1 times the first plus 0 times the second. So this is notation in B1 for these. So the way they are given usually is in terms of the standard, and that's actually what you need to get the matrix. So this matrix is 3, 4, 2, 3. So that changes you to the standard here. H is similarly easy to get. H, to get H, you write each one of these in terms of the standard. Hey, they are in terms of the standard. These are standard notation. So this is 8, 3, 5, 2. By the way you know that these are standard is they don't have a subscript. You need to subscript vectors if they are using notation other than what is standard. Okay, so we found these. These were easy to find. And let me record C here as well. Now, in order to complete the diagram, I'm going to want to compute the inverses of these. You can use Mathematica to compute the inverses. But I rigged it up so the inverses are pretty easy. C inverse here is 3 minus 2 minus 4, 3. This is a little trick for any 2x2 matrix. You can interchange these two numbers and change the sign on these. Gives you the inverse. So the inverse here is, okay, we are going to change this. We're going to interchange these two, so 2 and 8, and change the signs on the other one. So there is H inverse. So we haven't attacked this problem at all now, yet, but it's easy to solve this problem now because T begins here and ends here. T starts with B1, ends with B2, and what we're going to do is make the trip this way rather than straight across. So T, and these are functions, by the way, so the first one goes on the right. So T, first of all, changes you to the standard with C. Then after that, it takes the standard and changes you to B2, so that is H inverse. And this order is important because if you multiply matrices in other orders, you can get very different things. T inverse is just the reverse of that. T inverse begins here and ends here, taking the trip through the standard. The first thing you would do is H, and then you multiply H by C inverse. So notice that these are quite similar. These are inverses of one another. They both use H and C. They both use inverses of, if one uses the function, the other one will use its inverse, and they use them in reverse order. That's how multiplication goes when you're finding inverses in general. So this is the blob diagram. We'll be using these blob diagrams, so I'd like you to diagram several of these when you change from one basis to the other. The book gives you a method of doing this one vector at a time, but you can use these matrices to do it, and that's the way we'll be doing it in the future. So this was the blob diagram talk. See you soon.